Anybody remember those 4 practices? No one remembers the 4 practices? My goodness. Come on. Energy through the energization. Pranayam to calm the heart. Affirmations to reprogram our minds. And meditation for the soul. So we spoke about 4 different levels. For the body, energy. For the mind, affirmations. For the heart, pranayam. And for the soul, meditation. So these 4 techniques, these 4 practices continue to hold true essentially for everything. Jayaji has throughout his talk spoken about the word energy and how important that is in order to attract whatever it is that we need. And the energization exercises, who remembers what we did for energy last time?
Tensing and relaxing.
We had a double breath, we tensed the body and we relaxed it. What was happening in the process of tension and relaxation? By tensing our muscles, we use our willpower to send energy to those muscles, and then when we relax, a lot of the blocked energy in those muscles open up, relax themselves, and there's much more energy that flows in the body more freely, more energy that we can access. Because the last topic was about karma, essentially, and reincarnation, but the real what we were talking about the last class was how can we face our karmas in a way that we at least neutralize them and do not create new karma in the process. And so what you need to face your karma is energy, because most of us want to hide and run away from our karma. That's what most of us would like to do. But instead of doing that, if we can raise our energy that we have currently, we can face it more easily. And it's the same for attracting things. We need that same energy. But now we're going to add another law to the law of energy, and that's the law of magnetism. Did anyone hear Jayaji say the word magnetism in his talk?
Magnetism.
How many times did he say that word? 21 times. You're right. Because that law is essentially what the law of attraction is all about. When you think of attraction, you think of a magnet. That's the first image that might come to you if I say, this wants to attract this. You think of a magnet. And so, in our last workshop, we spoke about how we can face something in a way where we can build up the energy, the calmness, the mental makeup to face something. Here we're talking about how we can also manipulate. It's not the best word, but it certainly works. How we can also manipulate the environment around us to serve our needs. So it's no longer just us imposing ourselves, us creating ourselves in a way that we can face the situation. Now we want to change the situation. So this requires a higher law. One little axiom that Yogananda gave that I forgot to mention last time was the greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. This is an axiom, and it's true. When we did the energization exercises, I said the more you can tense, the more energy, the more willpower you put into this process, the more energy, once you relax, you will feel flowing in your body. So remember this line, the greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. Now for this particular section, let's look at what the law of magnetism is. What is the law of magnetism? It's a law of attraction and repulsion. That's what is constantly going on. Yogananda said the entire universe runs on this law. Let's look at everything in this world functions on the principles of magnetism. When you have chemicals, any elements, how are the atoms together? Magnetism. Protons, electrons, neutrons, they all have a magnetism that binds them together. And that's how everything has been created. The entire universe, what does it work on? Gravity. That's a kind of magnetism. So you have the sun, which has such a huge gravity, it's constantly pulling all the planets towards them, right? But why don't the planets kind of go into the sun? because they are, like the Earth, for example, is also spinning on its axis on the opposite direction, so it creates a opposite repulsing force. And so you've got the sun that's pulling the Earth towards it, and you've got the Earth's energy that's trying to move it away from the sun, and in that process, it stays stationary and creates an orbit. And so even the entire universe is functioning on magnetism. Do man and woman function on magnetism? That's how we also function. Everything in this world, if you look at the laws, the entire law of karma is about magnetism. Whatever energy you put out, whatever action you put out, the magnetism of that action will bring you the reaction exactly in that same quality that we put out. So everything we're talking about circles around magnetism. And so now let's look at the law of magnetism. And for that, I thought we'll compare two pieces of iron. One iron is magnetized and one iron is not. Let's draw two pieces. This iron, part of my poor iron. This is magnetized and this is not magnetized. Do we have science students in the audience who might be able to help me in this process? What's the difference between the two? That we know, thank you. What's the difference? They're both iron. Both exactly the same iron. One is magnetic and has the ability to attract things to it, and one doesn't have the ability.
The magnetic one has things aligned in one direction.
Okay, so we have one of our students who's been paying attention in my classes. Thank you. All iron, any element, everything has molecules. Do we know that? So there are molecules and they're everywhere. They make up the iron. The magnetized iron will have all its molecules aligned in a north-south polarity. All of these molecules are all aligned. Whereas here, all these molecules are all over the place, thereby cancelling the inherent magnetism in the piece of iron. Can we draw some similarity here in our life? With what? Scattered energies, scattered thoughts, scattered desires. I want this car, but I don't want to put the energy out, or oh, maybe I can't do it, I can't earn enough money. So you put out a certain molecule of thought saying, this is what I want, but then you immediately put out another molecule saying, I don't know, but if I can even get it. So you've got these two molecules. Your first molecule was ready to do what it needed to do, but then your second molecule cancelled out the magnetism of that molecule. How can we change this into this? No one from my class, no one from the level 1 or 2, I don't want any cheaters. I want you people to think about it. Yes, but let's stay on science for now. How would physics tell you to change this into this?
Consciously thinking of one thing all the time, but sick.
Send an energy field around it.
Good. If I take this piece of iron and I wrap a copper wire around it and I pass electricity through it, what's going to happen?
Magnetic field will be created.
A magnetic field will be created, but that aligns all the molecules in that north-south polarity, thereby magnetizing that piece of iron. Can we draw a similarity in our life from this particular thought? What was Jayaji talking about? He talked about energy. Yes? He spoke about energy. So let's assume that we are this piece of magnet, or piece of iron, and all our molecules, do you agree with me that all your molecules are not aligned in one direction? Good. So all our molecules, not good, it's bad, but good that you agree with me. All our molecules are misaligned and are constantly cancelling out any magnetism that we put out to attract something in our life. Now, I'm not saying we have no magnetism. Of course we have magnetism. We have magnetism that we've built up over several lifetimes. We have magnetism of certain thought patterns that we've created even in this lifetime. And I can tell each one of you has a certain amount of success in this world, whether it's the kind of success you want or not, it's there. You've attracted something in your life, the right friend, a good enough husband or wife, the right circumstances, a good job. You've put out certain magnetism, but it's not enough because we're still looking for more, and that's fine. Jayaji said eventually we'll realize that what we're looking for is within us, but until we get to that point, and we'll only get to that point by our own experience. No one on this stage can come up and tell you, you're looking in the wrong place, look within you. And you won't be like, wow, I got it now. You won't, because that's not how life works. We learn through experience. So first we need to learn, how can I just become magnetic even to attract simple things in my life? How can I align all my molecules in a way that there is this flow of magnetism? And the solution lies, one gentleman over here said, by bringing a magnet close to this magnet, you will also magnetize that. And that's also very true. And what does that mean in our lives? Who can tell me? Satsang, the guru, environment. Let's make it very mundane. Let's not even make it the guru yet. If I want to be a successful businessman, what kind of magnet should I have next to me? Another successful businessman. I need to surround myself with the right magnets. What do? Yes, we have friends and they love us and they're good to us, but they may not have the magnetism we're looking for. You say, I want to do this, and they say, yaar, मेरे को नहीं लगता यार, ऐसे तो boring सा लग रहा है, इसको नहीं करते हैं, इसको. You know, that's how our environment normally influences us. You're at home, you tell your mom you want to do this, and your mom says, क्या बोल रहा है, doctor बन जा तू, painter मत बन. So what happens to your magnetism? You've put out this thought that I want to be a painter. You hope that you can generate enough magnetism to actualize that, but then your environment does not support it because there is no other magnet around you to help that. Now, we may not be able to change our parents. I think we are not allowed to. And we're not going to reject our friends. But what we can do is we can introduce in our lives situations where we can be around those people who have the magnetism that we want. And that's why, in a spiritual sense, all saints talk about satsang. All saints talk about be around other spiritual people, come together, gather often. If any of you have ever meditated in a group, you will realize that your meditations are always deeper and better in the group than when you were all alone at home. Why? Because the group magnetism helps each individual to also get into that flow of that magnetism. But again, let's take it back to what we want, what we need. What do we want? We want basic amount of prosperity. We want right people, friends, situations around us. So start looking for people in your life. You see, as Jaya was giving us the example, he had this friend who was very generous. And he put himself in his orbit. He brought himself close to that guy. And little by little, some of that got rubbed on to him too. And that's what's going to happen to you. And this is so simple. This is something that you might even say, that doesn't work. But it does work. Because it works for a magnet. Why won't it work for you? It's the same principle. So that's first. And that's something you can say we're all going to have to work on, trying to find the right people, trying to understand what it is that we're really looking for, and try to associate in that environment. And that means many different things. Changing lots of things in your environment, even changing your house, the setting of your house, changing the environment you might be in. Garbage, dirt around you affects your magnetism. So if you're living in a very dirty area, you can go out, clean it. Everything is magnetic. Is a dirty house magnetic or is a clean house magnetic? A clean house. When you come in, are you uplifted in a dirty house or in a clean house? In a clean house, you need to first of all change in your mind and understand everything has magnetism. Everything. People, places, things, situations, circumstances, everything has magnetism. And from now, you have to start thinking, what magnetism do I want? And you need to start placing yourself little by little, aligning your life to that magnetism. Now that's something you can do outwardly. What can we do inwardly? Two, for the second thing, is to introduce this current in our life. How can we introduce a current in our life? And the word we've already spoken about is energy. So we got the first axiom I told you was, the greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. The second axiom to remember is, the greater the flow of energy, the greater the magnetism. And these things go together constantly. If you have low energy, you will not be magnetic. You won't attract anything to yourself. Why? There's no magnetism to attract. Have you seen any successful person in this world who has no energy? Everyone who has had made anything of himself in his life is a man of high energy, or a woman. I saw a movie called The Theory of Everything. Have you seen this movie? It's about the life of Stephen Hawking. Now this man, considered the second Einstein, couldn't use his entire body except for 2 fingers. He was always on a wheelchair. He had some disease where all his voluntary functions failed. So he was alive, all the involuntary functions were working, but all voluntary functions failed. Now I would think such a man is doomed, it's done, his life's over. But what does he do? He comes up with a theory second only to Einstein's theory of relativity. That's what he did. And you would say, what kind of circumstances did he have? How did he do that? He put out energy. Whatever he could. It didn't mean he had to have energy in his body. He put out this strong flow of energy using what? His willpower. And what's the second thing Jayaji spoke about that we need for energy? For magnetism, to get a flow of energy going? Concentration. Remember these 2 words, concentration and willpower. Willpower and concentration direct the flow of energy. It's not enough just to have energy, because you can have a lot of energy and you can be completely restless and you don't know what to do in your life, and you'll dissipate all that energy and you'll accomplish nothing. But you have to take that energy and you need it to flow. Because energy that just sits has no magnetism. Only when energy is flowing will it have magnetism. Now the question is, how do we create a flow of energy? Now there are several ways we can create a flow of energy. But the first thing is, how can we develop enough concentration and willpower? Now the best way to develop concentration and willpower, which someone's already mentioned, is meditation. It kind of sounds, whenever I'm up here and I say, meditation is the best thing, I kind of sound like I'm trying to sell you something that none of you know about. But there's a lot of science behind meditation, and now fortunately science is catching up with this and is doing a lot of experiments. What's happening in meditation? We close our eyes and we sit, but what's happening?
Mind is at peace.
Mind is at peace.
Focus.
We need a lot of focus and concentration. What's really trying to happen in meditation is we're trying to create a flow of energy, withdraw our energy into our spines, and uplift that energy up to this center in our brain. Now, spiritually speaking, this is the Agya Chakra, the spiritual eye, which means nothing to most people. But physically speaking, this is the prefrontal lobe of our brain. And interestingly, the prefrontal lobe of our brain is all about concentration and willpower. That's the center of concentration and willpower. So in meditation, you are activating the prefrontal lobe of our brain, constantly telling it more and more, get concentration, get willpower. Have you ever seen when you are concentrated, do you ever knit your eyebrows and do, I need to think of it, and you put your hand sometimes up here and you're really thinking about something, you'll knit your eyebrows, try to bring the energy to this point. Because naturally you know that we normally function from here in our brain. This is our limbic system, and our limbic system is all about our habits, our reactions, our likes and dislikes, our stress syndrome of the fight and flight. And so we are become kind of slaves to that process. This happens to me, this is how I need to react. If that person says this to me, I'm going to say this immediately back to him. Whereas the prefrontal lobe of our brain acts like a little pause mechanism where something happens to you, and the prefrontal lobe, if it's activated, if it's not, you'll just react the way you're used to reacting. But if your prefrontal lobe is activated, it'll give you an opportunity to judge your response rather than react immediately. So this part of our brain is also that part of our brain that controls the functions of joy, happiness, harmony, cooperation, creativity, concentration, and willpower. All of that is controlled by the prefrontal lobe of our brain. So in meditation, it's not just we're sitting and we're being quiet and we're being calm. We are very deliberately sending energy up to this point, trying to activate it, energize it, so that when we then go into the world, we actually use it. Once it's energized and activated, then if a situation comes, you don't have to think, how am I going to judge this situation? Naturally, your prefrontal lobe kicks in and doesn't allow your limbic system to kick in. You see, it's like a switch. It says either you're on limbic or you're on prefrontal lobe. You can't be on both. And only if you energize it, which most of us don't, because we don't know how to energize it. You can punch it and try to energize it, but that doesn't work. You have to send energy up there and get it to move, get it to work. And in meditation, all the techniques of meditation are about concentration, willpower. And the other thing that's happening in meditation, by energizing this center, we create a flow of energy in our spine. And if this magnet was your spine, and you introduced a flow of energy in it, what's going to happen to your spine? It's going to get magnetized. And when your spine is magnetized, and we're going to a little esoteric this way, many things in your life will change when your spine is magnetized, because our spine contains in it the entire host of all our vrittis, as they are called in Sanskrit, all our desires, all our likes and dislikes, everything is lodged in our astral spine. I don't want to go into it right now because most of you may not know these things, these terms, and it's better that we don't go too deep into the esoteric. I want to keep it on a way that you can understand it and apply it in your daily lives. But just understand that if a flow of energy is created, there's a magnet that is created in that process. And if a magnet is created in you, you become a magnet. And the spine, thank goodness, isn't connected too deeply with our minds in a way that we don't control our spine. If the spine is energized and a magnet of the spine is created, it knows what it needs to attract for its betterment. Because the energy could also flow this way, and all the molecules would align in that way. And that would attract something very different. If the energy goes down to the base of the spine, which it does when we get angry, when we are fearful. Have you ever felt fear right here? Because this is the center of fear. This chakra right here. So in fear, the energy drops down. And when energy drops down the spine, it creates a reverse magnet. And then you attract to yourself, a person who's fearful will attract to himself just those situations he's afraid of. Because he's created that kind of a magnet. If you reverse that flow, you create the opposite magnet. And so, we'll leave it at that for now in terms of our spine. You know, because Jaya took most of my material away from me, I'm going to tell a story of my own life. when I was in college and I decided I wanted to give my life to this path, to God, to finding, to self-realization essentially, I gave it with the idea that I want to renounce things, I want to become a brahmachari, I want to just give my life to God wholeheartedly. And yes, I did that for a little while. But what I realized in the process, that I wasn't looking for money, for success, for anything. The only thing I gave my life to was creating this flow in my spine. And it's been 6 years now since I've been doing that, and I'm amazed at my life. I have friends who are highly successful in the world, and they don't have a life like I have. My wife and I, we just got back from America there for 2 months. If I tell a friend I was in America for 2 months touring the entire country, they're like, what? How? I can't afford that. I don't have the time to do that. How in the world did you do it? Where did you get the money from? I don't know. I don't have any money. We go to Europe for 2 months every year. See, in people's mind, if I can travel, if I can get a lot of money, I'll be successful. That's what my life is about. But is that what our life really is about? You can travel everywhere you want in the world. You won't be happy. And when you give your life to that upward flow of energy, it's not that I'm dedicating my life to God. It's not that I only want God. If that works for you, great. But what really is needed is to dedicate your life to magnetizing your spine, and then situations around you will bring you what you need, bring you these experiences. I never thought I would do that. I thought since I've renounced everything, I'll never have money. I'll just sit somewhere in a little room, if I get a room, and that's it. I'll just meditate and hopefully make some progress. But when you start magnetizing your spine, things happen. Because you then attract to yourself what you need. So that's step one, the biggest step in trying to attract what you need. But there are other little smaller steps we can all take to help increase our concentration and increase our willpower. One thing that Jaya has already mentioned for increasing our concentration is, what did he mention? Sit upright's a good one. Why do we want to have an upright spine? Because the energy will not flow up if I create a kink in that flow of the energy. So if I bend my spine here, if the energy was trying to flow up, it just stops right here. So it does not create that magnetism. It does not create that flow of energy that we're trying to create in us. That's certainly one very good thing. But he said very mundane, very simple about multitasking. We think in today's society that multitasking means we're really good, that we can do so many things at the same time. But unfortunately, in that process, we start getting all our molecules misaligned. And then what happens is neither one has enough magnetism. Because there's no alignment, so no energy flows. Enough energy does not flow. Some energy, of course, is flowing. And so in multitasking, that's constantly what we're doing is we're dissipating that flow of energy that we could have, if we just stay on one thing at a time, we could have created a much stronger flow of energy. Because what is concentration? What's concentration? Focusing on one particular thing at a time, essentially sending energy to one thing at a time. You know how if you're going to thread a needle, you have to take the thread and kind of twist it because it's got these little threads that go out all over. And so if you try to put it through the needle, it's not going to go in. So you have to, bring all of those threads to one point and only then will it go in. And so we are like that little threads. And all our threads don't allow us to get into that needle, into the eye of the needle because we're all over the place. If we can just take a little bit of spit, get all our threads aligned, activate our prefrontal lobe, you'll be able to do better. So when you activate the prefrontal lobe, you're naturally going to be able to give more concentration to many different things. But that's not enough. Even in your life, you have to have that willpower, the ability to say, I'm going to give my energy just to one. I mean, we're all guilty of this. I myself am guilty of it. While I was studying for this talk, I would get a WhatsApp and I would see, okay, and reply this person, and then I'd put it down, and suddenly in my computer a notification would come, you have an email, and I would close my studies and I would go to my email. It's just we've become so accustomed to that process that we don't even think about it anymore. But then when I was studying for my talk, I suddenly came to this point, and I was like, that's true. In fact, all these points I just wanted to mention, there's a book out there called Money Magnetism, and it's not just about money. It's about how to create magnetism. It just so happens most of us want money. And so that's a good thing to have, and that's a good magnetism to have. But all the principles that are in that book for money magnetism, I'm sure Jaya's, most of his principles also came from that book. And most of what I'm suggesting to you is also from that book. So if you're interested really to go in depth, I would recommend that highly. So when you put your mind just on one thing, so what that will require from you is just to say, for this 1 hour, I won't do it for the rest of the day. The rest of the day I might multitask. But for this 1 hour, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to give my 100% to whatever I happen to be doing at that time. And see how that works for you. We're going to have to try to experiment in this process. You can't no one up here is going to just give you some sort of a magic key that's going to unlock this treasure chest for you that says, the Kamdhenu or something, that cow you have, that whatever you ask for, you get it. That Kamdhenu can be ours, but we have to really, really, really work for it. And our first thing we need to work on nowadays, look at the kids. So many subjects, so many tuitions, so many this. How will they concentrate? I can see the little kid over there telling her mom, exactly mom, don't send me on tuitions, don't give me all this work. You can concentrate if you work at it. If you meditate, you'll be able to concentrate. But you have to work at it even outside. Just say, I'm not going to do these things for this limited time. So that's one thing. Very important. Seems so simple. Seems like, I can do that. Try it. And see if you can really do that. See if the moment your phone says, ding, where does your even mind go? Let alone that you will pick up your phone. Immediately your mind's like, who is that? Is that my friend who I wrote? And is he telling me the thing that I wanted to hear? Or is it the news that I've been waiting for? And even if it's not as exciting, if it's trivial, like, some Facebook update of a friend saying, now I'm no longer at home, I'm on the way to the movies. That's how exciting our life is. Oh, we want to find out if our friend is now on the way to the movies. That's where our concentration gets completely lost. And how do you think you're going to build this up if you cannot even focus on one thing at a time? So try that very seriously, very honestly, and grade yourself every day, saying how well you did and how much you can do more. So that's about concentration. Another simple thing of building your willpower, and I found this very effective, is every day put yourself one task, simple task, and do it. Make it very simple. Today I'm going to go out and buy milk. Irrespective of if you have milk at home, irrespective of if your, Aya went and she bought the milk. Today I'm going to go out and buy milk and do it. Once you start doing this, what this does for you, this works like an affirmation. Because you do something, and in your mind, there's this little bulb that says success. You put your mind to something, and you did it. The next day, you put your mind to something else, and you do it. The third day, you put your mind to something else, and you do it. What we do is we put our minds to, I'm going to become the best doctor in the world, and then we fall short of it, and in our mind, failure. So our mind gets programmed for failure rather than for success. But if I say, I'm just going to do something very simple today, and I'm going to do it irrespective of whatever happens, little by little your mind starts accumulating success, success. It's like a piggy bank, you keep putting money into it. Success, 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 success. And the magnetism of that starts increasing. Thereby, one day you put your mind to something bigger, you get successful at it because you have enough willpower, enough energy is now flowing. This is your seat of willpower. So if you utilize willpower, naturally the energy rises in the spine to help you accomplish that. And when that energy naturally rises, Even without meditation, you're raising your energy. Even without meditation, you're magnetizing your spine. And do that, because one of the major issues of today, and maybe forever, has been procrastination. Does anyone know the word procrastination?
Putting off things.
To putting things off for a later date. You put your mind on something tomorrow, you tell yourself, oh, I'll do this work, then you say, Kal karenge. Immediately there's this magnetism that could have gone, energy that could have been generated, a flow that could have been created, and you cut it off. How will you ever attract anything? How will you ever accomplish anything if you can't even say, tomorrow I was supposed to send an email to my friend, now I've procrastinated, I'll do it some other day. So you can't accomplish something so trivial, and then you want what I need when I need it, and I want the universe to give me right now, and I deserve it. What do you deserve? What have you put out? Are you giving the universe the thing that you said you would give it? No. You are not keeping your promises. Why will the universe keep its promise to you? It won't. That is the law of karma. That's the energy we put out. That's the magnetism we create. And you will keep receiving that same magnetism back again and again and again and again till you recognize what you're doing wrong. And what you're doing wrong, very simply, is you're not keeping your promises. You're not keeping those little things that you said you would do. Swami Kriyananda, once there was a story where he said he was going to go out and get a newspaper one day. He just told someone, let's go today to the town, because he lived away from the city. And he said, let's go because I'd like to read the newspaper, so I'll go get one. And it just so happened that someone brought him a newspaper it just so happened. And so the person who was supposed to drive, Swami said, well, Swami, then we won't go. He says, no, of course we'll go. I said I was going to do it, and I'm going to do it. Because he recognized the importance. There's energy that he has sent out into the universe already. And if he cuts that energy now, that's going to affect every other thing. He's going to keep cutting that energy because it's not important. We think none of these things are important. Everything has magnetism. Never forget that. Drill that in your mind. Everything has magnetism. Every thought you think has magnetism. Every action you do has magnetism. Every action you don't do has magnetism as well. So it sounds simple. Yeah, let's set a small task to ourselves and let's accomplish it. You who want, try it. Let's see how well you do. Let's see how easy it is for you to accomplish all the things you've set your mind to. It isn't. Because you don't think it's important enough. But it's important. So, think about that. Another technique, and this is one that I enjoy very much, is visualization. Do people know what visualization is? Okay, I think the name's pretty self-explanatory. Visualization is a process. What visualization does is two things. It helps us concentrate, because when we visualize something, we have to send all our energy into that visualization. Second, it clarifies, it brings clarity to us. When we start visualizing something, we need to really think about it. We have to bring a lot of clarity to the subject. Now, one question, and we'll address this, I hope, and Jaya mentioned it, is how do you distinguish between what you want and what you need? It's tricky, huh? Because mostly what we think we need is essentially what we want. What we want, if I want this, that means I need it. And it's not obviously that simple, and even the answer that we'll be able to share with you today is not going to be that simple, but I hope it will bring some clarity, at least in this visualization, I mean especially. Because when you're visualizing something, the first thing is you need to immerse yourself in this visualization. You're going to understand, visualize, closing your eyes, at the point between the eyebrows. Why? What is this the center of? Concentration and willpower. So if you visualize here, you're already activating your concentration and willpower towards that visualization. If you just visualize it as a vague thing somewhere down here or something, it doesn't have that power. If you visualize it here, because your energy starts moving up to visualize it here, it's already working its magic on the prefrontal lobe of your brain. So you start visualizing it here, and Yogananda said, involve your every sense in that visualization. See it crystal clear. Hear the sounds of that thing that you're making in your visualization. Smell the smells if there are any in the visualization. Almost as though you can feel it. So you have to really, really, really put in a lot of energy and a lot of concentration in this process. Because if you're not concentrated, you won't get those shapes to be crystal clear. So you put out a lot of energy in the visualization, bring all your energy, involve all your senses in it. And then Swami made a very interesting comment in his book, Money Magnetism. He said, where he deals with the question of what it is we want versus what it is we need. And he gave the example, he says, if you want a car, let's assume you want a car, and you don't know if that's exactly what you should have or is that what you need, he said, rather than crystally visualizing, and Jayaji mentioned it, he says, don't get too detailed. In the sense, on one hand I'm saying, get absolute clarity, and on the other hand we're saying, don't be too detailed. But the detail is getting fixated on what you think you should have. So if I'm going to visualize a car, I'm visualizing a Mercedes-Benz, and I'm visualizing, I'm smelling the leather of the new seats, and I'm the sound that it makes when I get in, and the sound of the engine, and I'm just visualizing all of this. And maybe a Mercedes-Benz doesn't come your way. Maybe a Maruti 800 happens to come your way. But what the thing is that when you do this, Swami said, rather than visualize the thing itself, visualize the service or the use of that. So visualize yourself now being able to go to work more easily. Visualize yourself that now your entire family can travel with you more easily because before you only had a bike. Visualize the need that you have and not the thing itself. Because when you visualize the thing itself, you block yourself, kind of box yourself into what you think you want, and then maybe that's not what you need. And therefore the magnetism that you'll create won't get you that, because that's not what you need. So visualize the service, visualize the use, visualize the direction that you need that thing for. If you need money, and say example, you need money because you want to put your child in a better school. Visualize that your child is going to a better school, rather than visualizing a pile of money. Because you want it for a specific reason, then you don't know how the universe is going to act. Maybe the headmaster of the school certainly says, you know what, I want to give you a scholarship, I think your child deserves it. Maybe mommy won't come to you, but something else will happen. So visualize the direction, what you're trying to accomplish, and don't get fixated on how you think you should accomplish that. So that's very important in your visualization. Past our time. Absolute clarity and bring the direction in mind more than bringing the specific object itself. I think I had one more thing, and I am going to mention it because I think it's extremely important and it's something we don't pay attention to in our lives, and it's in fact something we tend to not want to do at all. Because all this while I'm talking about how you can generate energy in yourself, in your mind, help you to accomplish these goals. But another wonderful way to generate energy is through action. By doing something. That's also a flow of energy when you do something. And as we're talking about that a lot of people want money, need money, let's say, not want, they need money. Money is a very much a necessity in this world. We can't kid ourselves by saying it's not important, because it is. Because that's how this world functions as of now. And since we do want that, there is a practice that has been practiced for many centuries. And this practice is called tithing. Have you ever heard of this practice called tithing? Tithing means to give 10%. That's what it eventually has become, but it's really whatever you like. A certain percentage, let's say, of your income, regular income, whatever money comes to you, to a place that inspires and uplifts you. It so happens that it was created by religion. Judaism started it, Christianity picked it up, it's very big in Sikhism, the Marwadis do it. You'll see all these people are well-off people actually. But tithing is essentially saying from my own heart, it's the highest affirmation of abundance. Because you're not just saying it, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, I'm abundant. You're doing something. You're saying I have enough that I can take a certain percentage of what I have and I give it to where I receive my inspiration from. In doing that, you put out such an enormous amount of energy, believe me. No matter how much you have, people think if I have more, I'll give. When I have less, I won't give. When you have less and you say I won't give, you block that saying I have less. But when you say, even if I have less, I'm going to give, if I have 1,000 rupees, 10% becomes 100. I'll give 100 rupees. And that follows what Jayaji was talking about, his friend who was generous. When he was generous and he gave and he never thought of it, things started coming to him. And this practice of tithing, it's an ancient practice really. It's about saying, I already have abundance. All this while we're saying, how can we think that we will have abundance? If you keep thinking I will have abundance, you'll never really have it. If you say I have it, and not just say I have it, do something that shows that you have it, it is yours already. It's already yours. No more will you have to look for it. No more greater magnetism can you put out than this practice of tithing. Really, find in your lives that which inspires you and give to that. Take a certain percentage. Make it 1% if you don't trust this law enough. But whatever it is, stay true to it, hold on to it, never waver from it, and you will see how much your life will change.